In this episode, you'll learn how to rebuild trust in life even after repeated pain. Welcome to Energy Alignment for Entrepreneurs, the podcast helping entrepreneurs be free from anxiety, stress, and tension through balancing emotions and consciousness expansion. 3 things you'll discover today. Why disappointment closes the heart. How to shift from guardedness to guidance. Poetic. And what to do when you feel spiritually betrayed. All right, start with the latter. What to do when you feel spiritually betrayed? Oh man, the word betrayal. It is an idea of, I can't believe they did this to me. You know, the pain, right? Whether you think you have trust in a partner and then they're doing right, they cheated. Oh man, right? That's tough. But you know what's tougher than being in a situation like that? Is entertaining or distracting or avoiding the insight packed within the moment. You know, a lot of people in interpersonal relationships, what do? They find the same connection with a different person. Neither individual grows. They just, they get disrespected by someone. They don't take time to understand how they created, how they put the signs out that they were open to being disrespected. You see, this is the next level of being. And of course, your being spans into your relationships, as being in itself is a relationship with thought, time, emotion, memory, awareness of how your identity works, how your brain works, how your mechanisms work, how your physiology works. So when you feel spiritually betrayed, you got to take a moment to accept accountability for the role that you played in signing up for that situation. Okay? Because whether you like it or not, you put out energy. You put out the frequency, which has created that connection. You know, for me, my own insecurity allowed me to be stepped on to a point where now I am so aware of all weakness in my vessel and my consciousness. And I can see it and feel it in others. And rather than judging them, have compassion because I can see where they're standing. Let's say you're in something which feels toxic and you don't leave. In that acting of not leaving, you are basically, it's all about what you don't say. And if you're not leaving and you know it's toxic, well, then you're accepting that poison. All right. So, what do I mean when I say it's all about what you don't say? Well, the reversing or the changing of the betrayal is having the conversation with yourself, having the accountability, the responsibility for the role that you played, the energy that you exerted to be in that situation. Okay. Then you're in that situation. What do you do in the process of noticing that you are responsible? Right? You don't entertain any form of weakness. You take responsibility and you juice the lemon, which is, what have I actually been shown through this experience? Whether it's interpersonal cheating or your boss is kind of stopping it. You know, the tough truth about consciousness is that when you have petty tyrants in your life, they could be employers who micromanage you, who treat you like you're unequal. Now, equality is a weird concept. We won't go into this because, I mean, look at the polar bears, they tear apart the seals. Look at, the lions and the etc. Nature is kind of raw and brutal. So is there equality? It's just an idea that we need to let go of. Equality is only going to be born through consciousness expanding to a degree where compassion is prevalent in every single human being. But let's talk about how to actually get there, not utopian bullshit. And That's the work here of understanding, oh, do you feel betrayed? Well, can you learn from that? Learning is not coming to a conclusion that they're a bad person and that you just need to find a good person. Learning is not having shame or guilt or self judgment of, oh, if I had just done this differently, then I would have, would have, could have, should have. Once I get this bullshit. You notice those internal dialogues in yourself, you have to silence them. You don't tell yourself, like, shut up. You, you look and you understand and you inquire and you question. You bring skepticism into, okay, when I have this perception, then I think in this certain manner. When I think in this certain manner, then I feel this said way. When I feel this said way, then I have a repeating negative feedback loop of weak actions. Somewhere in the line, you have to break the pattern, right? All clinical, all psychologists talk about the concept of a pattern break. In spirituality, a pattern break is valuable. You need to notice when you're in these vibrational states of being, which are just, you're done with it, right? In a certain point in your evolution, you're going to have to dance with shame, guilt, envy, jealousy. The list goes on. But you get to a point in your evolution where it's evolution. What does that mean? Drop that word. It's, time and thought and memory, they matter, but this work is done beyond the field of time. It's done in the moments. It's light speed awakening. It's light speed epiphany. And that means you have to be tuned in, locked in to a watching. Almost, I've been reading the fire from within. They use this term, a master of awareness, but then a master of stalking. And what I'm getting from the word stalking and how they use that in the book is it's a stalking of your own vibrations. It's a watching, a seeing, an understanding of the subtlest of nuances which change what you are in each moment. And if you tap into that awareness, then you can move in a way which helps humanity see what they actually are. Yeah? Let's say you're doing this work, you come across someone who has this identity of being betrayed, which then turns into some form of a helpless victim. You can say the right things at the right time in the correct tone of voice, cadence, etc., so that they understand the truth behind what needs to be done to get out of this limiting, weak identity of someone who has been betrayed. Okay, how to shift from guardedness to guidance. Well, we'll take the two words, right? What does it mean to be guarded? We'll begin with that. To be guarded is usually, I see this frequently, I've seen it in myself, where people put up a wall around themselves because they've been hurt too many times and they are unwilling to be vulnerable and honest and realize that the pain is the gift. That's the truth of how consciousness changes. You have to go through the pain of being unaware, stubbing your toe, banging your head against the wall until you get to a point of, okay, well, this isn't working, right? What's the definition of insanity? It's like doing the same thing a bunch, expecting different results. Take that into relationship of your internal dialogue. Take that in relationship to the tones of voice you use, the way that you interact with family, with loved ones, with not loved, with random people. If you're always so used to not listening, maybe try surrendering and actually listening free of judgment. So that's the guardedness, right? The guardedness is you being so opinionated in your specific worldview, your beliefs, your ideologies, the way you were raised, your background, that you cannot actually listen and solely consider putting yourself in another's shoes. So eh, we're so spoiled in today's world, and it's a gift. but it can also be the most torturous thing if you do not invest your leisure time wisely. Spoiled in a sense where we have such electricity, such luxury, where in today's world we're like kings of the past. Yet, so me myself included, we want things, we desire things. And it's that which creates the guardedness because you're attached to a conclusion, an idea derived from the identity in thought. You question the nature of being guarded. You learn to surrender and realize that maybe the things that I want, I actually don't need. For example, if you want something for a status, and status is weak and shallow, depending on where you're at in your journey, you may not wake up and you may go live a life of status. But the people whom I'm speaking to here are individuals, who, how do I put it? You're not special, but somehow, some way you've been here before. Somehow, some way you're wiser, old soul, whatever labels you want to call it. Something's a little different about you in terms of every single other person. Doesn't mean you're special, but when you look at how society moves, there's a lot of zombification, non-playable character type shit. Individuals who just mosey. They just do small talk. They don't get into depth. They don't observe nothing about themselves. They're distracted. They're scrolling. They're talking fantasy football all the time. Like, with those people, I'm not judging them. I'm just realizing that this message is going to hit those. Okay, first of all, it could hit those people when they're ready. See, that's the openness. I'm not saying because I was once distracted. So if I was once distracted and now I'm where I am and who I am, well, then why would I act as if other NPCs can't change? So there's that balance of, okay, I'm speaking to specific people. Now, this is where the guidance comes in. Essentially, the reason I'm saying what I'm saying is because I'm doing my best to tie what is a deeper guidance. How do you let yourself surrender and be guided by deeper truths? Fundamentally, practically, you missed, I forget his name, but he kind of coined the clean up, grow up, wake up. It's a three-stage thing, but if you're awake, but you're not clean and grown up, doesn't matter. Your consciousness, your awareness, it'll be squandered. So you got to clean up. Cleaning up is like simple nutrition, habits, ways of thinking, how you move, what you value, what you let go of. And this is where the growing up is learning how to be guided, meaning that you see that there's an intelligence so much beyond the self-identity who has all the memory, knowledge, experience, which then is communicated in the form of thinking. You learn so much through going at the right pace. So you clean up. Growing up is changing your relationships and learning to surrender. Growing up is realizing that you don't need to be like everyone, nor are you meant to be like everyone. And as you grow up, you wake up in this, it's a culmination. You learn to say, I don't have all the answers. I don't need all the answers, but just show me what I need to see in this given cycle, this given spiral. Shifting from a guardedness to being guided is realizing, how in entertaining weakness, distraction, avoidance, judgment, holding grudges, etc., you tie yourself to a point which is not even possible. There's zero potential to be guided when you entertain and you live in this weakness. But the spirit, the soul, the universe, the consciousness, it sparks you, it lights you up when it begins to feel that you're sowing, that you're aware of the seeds that you're planting. And now the last point, what to do. Oh, no. The last point, why disappointment closes the heart, right? It's the exact same building from the initial point of what being guarded does to you. It's this state, this vibration of, it could be self-pity, it could be a victim. Those are just words, labels. Ultimately, it's a vibration which is uh, not open. You know, the essence of courage is that you're open, that even though you're scared, you're going to step into the dark. You don't know what's in the dark, but you kind of feel that you need to step into it. Not from like a weird, perverse attraction, but from a deep pull of, I cannot be scared of this thing anymore. Disappointment works in a similar fashion where if you have the courage to question why are you disappointed, you'll so frequently see that the mind was hinged to expectation. And you'll notice that there's a very frequent relationship between expectation and suffering. And then you start to decipher the nature of how you even started to create expectation within your psyche. And it's this sort of, okay, we take the blossom, we go into the branch, we take the branch, we go into the stem or the root or the trunk. Then from the trunk or the stem, we go into the roots. And looking at the roots piece by piece, this is how you get to understand consciousness itself. And this is how you feel the heart. So you have to have this courage to kind of be open-minded. It really all starts with that openness. And you study, you understand, you decipher the nature of the weak parts of you. In that process, the weak parts of you shed, just like the snake loses its skin, just like the cicada crawls out of its shell. This is what happens to your being, your consciousness, your expansion. And it's really not meant for everyone. It's the pacing, as in, you don't choose your consciousness. You don't choose. Like I would say, although it's kind of like I am saying things that need to be said, this can sometimes also feel like a curse or a sword stuck in my back. But then I take that mentality of no, it's a cross to carry, and I'm grateful to have this responsibility to communicate these things that I didn't choose to have bestowed upon me. Um, so ultimately, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for listening. If you know anyone who, this would fire up, if this, share that with them. Share it with them. And if you would like to work one-on-one, I got a few slots. We could do really anything that you are looking to do. I got tangible results in the physical realm in terms of physique. And if you want to pair physique, nutrition, fundamentals, whether you want to work on cleaning up, growing up, waking up, I'll meet you where you're at. That's my offer. My offer is I'll meet you where you're at, and I can guarantee you get immense value. That being said, I only got a few slots, so uh, to the right people, you'll find me, I'll find you, and have a wonderful day. Genuinely. Last thing I would say, if you really would like to, drop a review, a rating or a review. Thank you so much. Speak soon.